Roads, we had the opportunity to sit down and probably, what, 2 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
And talk about the bookkeeping function and how it could relate and some of the services that he could bring to our franchise system. And he was ready then. We just weren't ready then. But one of the things that we talked about was the ability to have an accountant in his firm or in firms that could do some of the accounting work as well as some of the bookkeeping work. And Chad came back about 6 months ago and said, John, guess what? I've got an accountant now. So they offer a full service gamut of bookkeeping and accounting related services. They are also one of the premier providers, the Innovation Award for QuickBooks, was it not? Was that?
Yeah.
Innovation Award for QuickBooks, and that's a pretty impressive feat because they won a national award and were singled out nationally as one of the most innovative companies out there by QuickBooks, by Intuit, especially in terms of their use of technology. So, Chad, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. What we have is we've got the Casual Pint here, and we've got Josh Robinette. We've got Carla Collins, John Robinette, and Nathan Robinette, so it's a family affair.
Familiar faces.
Matt Beeler from Big Kahuna Wings. You know Roger and our team. And then we have Mikey Wetzel from Go Burrito and Elizabeth Rummage on the other end. They're both with the Go Burrito concept.
So, awesome.
I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thanks. And again, I think the format was maybe just me presenting a little bit and answering questions at that point. Does that sound okay with you guys?
You got 30 minutes and then followed by about 15 minutes of Q&A.
All right. We'll leave some wiggle time in there. For starters, I just want to say thanks. You know, we feel honored to be one of the chosen remaining companies as options for you guys. We know there are a lot of good companies that are going to be presenting to you guys. And our hope is that something that we say today will stand out above the crowd, and we'd love the opportunity to partner with you guys. And I thought it'd be helpful to share a little bit about my journey getting here, because I think it's important, because I think it resonates, and I think you can probably identify either you personally or with some of your franchises as well. When I got started my first career, I bought a franchise right out of school at 22, and my dad was in Florida. He was more the money behind it, and I guess you could say I was the brains, but certainly the brawn. And I just had the passion to believe. This was the internet days, right? The late 90s, where you could close your eyes and throw a dart, and you think that anything that related to the internet was just going to take off with this tremendous trajectory. And our concept was an ISP, an internet service provider called Integrity Online. It's a family-friendly, we're in the Bible Belt, it's a family-friendly internet service. You want to keep your kids off the junk on the internet, keep your business off the junk on the internet. And we thought we were going to change the world. Well, again, being a franchise, this was started by a pastor out in Portland, Oregon. And they had good intentions, but what happened was they said, all right, I'm going to send a guy out there with some equipment. We're going to get you set up. And they did that. Sent a guy out, dropped off some servers and equipment, and then basically said, all right, good luck. And it was tough. I'm 22. It's my first business, first shot at the real world. And it was a difficult situation to walk into. I did not have the infrastructure and the support of First Choice. And I think if I had that, I'd probably still have hair. But I may still have that business too. I mean, I learned through the School of Hard Knocks. I went out and got a copy of QuickBooks, and I became my own bookkeeper. So for me, I should be out more selling and marketing and managing the team. But a lot of my time was spent behind closed doors trying to learn accounting. So it's wonderful that you have a relationship like First Choice that can help give the plan, that can help you direct where you're going and be able to take that all over the U.S. So that frustration was not having it. The second one is every time I interacted with my CPA, I felt like it was this transactional relationship centered around an event, typically the tax return. It was tax time, and so we're looking back on what happened last year, and he's helping me think through what can we do with this year. But it was all historical, it was all looking backwards. And I was leery about even contacting him. At this point, Google was out, and I'm thinking, can I just Google my answer, my question? Because one, I'm hearing the bill get bigger every time, every time I interact with him, the longer the conversation, the bigger the bill. But I'm also a little intimidated to ask questions. He talks these big fancy words that are intimidating and don't make me feel comfortable. And so it was this relationship that just really seemed like a vendor transactional relationship. I ended up selling that business a couple of years later, but those things stuck with me. And so I guess 12 years later, when we started Two Roads, we had that 22-year-old new business owner in mind. And while I may be younger than some of the folks that are starting franchises back then, I don't know that I'm all that unique in terms of my experience owning a business. I think a lot of the people that buy franchises typically, maybe they've worked in the corporate world and saved a lot of cash and they're just tired of the rat race and decide, hey, I want to go start something. Or they just had a passion about a particular industry and think, I'm going to do this. And the beauty of a franchise, it provides a framework to do that. So again, that's what really the idea of Two Roads is. We are a firm, and thankfully I do have a team of super smart accountants and professionals. We've got chartered financial analysts on the team. We've got accountants. We've got a CPA. We've got people that are able to do. We've got a team of 17. 12 of those are bookkeepers and accountant types. We've got myself, Joe, and Zach lead operations and onboarding. And it's really a neat opportunity now that we have at Two Roads. So we've been in business since 2011, and we've seen a lot of growth over the last couple of years. With that in mind, I was hoping to share what I believe are some of the differentiations from Two Roads and other companies that exist, and then we'll open up obviously for questions at that point. It's all about, for us, it's all about the relationship, right? At the end of the day, people talk a lot about that, but one of the things that I mean by that is we call our clients partners. We really want people to not, think about that historical relationships that I've had in the past. We want people to feel as though they've got a partner, somebody in their corner, somebody's going to go to bat for them, somebody that is not this transactional relationship, but somebody that's actually going to be thinking about how can I help you become more successful. That for us is success, is that we can partner with you to help you make you better at what you already do well. And so we call our clients partners. We're responsive. If you call our office, you're going to get a human. It's kind of a novel idea sometimes anymore, but it's unfortunate. You're going to get somebody to talk to. The reality is we may not always know the answer to your question right away, but we want to make sure your voice is heard, so it's important that a human answers the phone. If email is your thing, you decide to email us, it may look like an email to you. When we receive it, it's a robust ticket system that keeps up with your request, your need, whatever it may be. We have a way, we track those, make sure it gets to the right person, and they respond in a timely manner. Another thing is just the way we communicate. We want to make sure we're dealing with small business owners, right? It's people that are often doing a franchise for the first time. It's their first business. We want to make sure that they understand the terms in which we communicate, whether it's financial terms or otherwise, but also they're able to take that information and use it to propel their business. So the relationship obviously is huge for us. Second thing too is we're taking an old school way of doing things and doing it in a different tact. To me, it's almost like the historian versus the futurist. So much of our world is reporting on history. It's taking a look back on what's already been done. We're changing that. I want to take this data that we're providing. Yeah, you have to do compliance, right? You have to make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. But what are you doing with that information to propel your business forward? So it's really important as we help train the business owners is they understand their key performance indicators, right? Three things they can take on a given month, every month. And if you know these three things, it's going to really transform your business. So not make it overly complicated, but you guys know how it works. There's really a couple of things that really matter, and everything else is secondary. So making sure they understand that. So again, moving away from compliance and moving towards analytics and metrics and taking that information to propel your business. One other thing too that we do is we spend a lot of time on the front end when it comes to onboarding. It's really important that we learn each concept, and we also take that information and document everything. We're very systems driven, very heavy on the process part, because we realize if we're going to serve you well, we really need to learn your business. It's not though, well, I think a lot of firms will just say, hey, great, we're going to engage, we'll start on Monday. There's not a lot of forethought and planning and preparation that's involved. So it's really important for us to spend on the front end, particularly as you grow and scale, right? So as you grow and you add additional franchises, it's one thing if they're across town, but what about when you go to other cities, go to other states? It's really important from a scalability standpoint to make sure that all that documentation, all that onboarding is done on the front end, and we're able to roll it out. So both, not only for you as franchises, but also for our team members. It's really important when a team member is on board, they understand exactly what needs to be taking place. A lot of times when if you ever have somebody that transitions, it's like starting over. So it's really important for us to document that. So if somebody on our team got hit by the proverbial bus, we're able to bring somebody else into that situation and really not miss a beat. So that's another important thing too. Another part that's really important is really the technology. As John mentioned, in last year in November, we were named by Intuit, obviously the maker of QuickBooks, the #1 firm of the future in the entire country, and that's quite an honor. It was a neat thing to be recognized in the U.S. But what does that mean to you guys? It's one thing to have that, but what does it mean? One, it means we have Intuit's ear. So when you think about the technology, about the accounting, about things that they're working on, we have Intuit's ear. So when they're asking questions, they're collaborating. I was in California a couple of weeks ago, sitting down and saying, here's some things we'd like to see, and they very much want to help us. They realize that the relationship's going to help propel Intuit into the future. And so when we have feedback and things from our partners, we call our clients partners, we're able to take that stuff to Intuit and to other vendors too. There's an Intuit ecosystem, right? So we create this ecosystem, so it's not just Intuit, but it's other relationships and vendors we bring to the table. They too, because we've been the firm of the future, they too realize the importance of that, and they really want to help us. They realize that we're on the cutting edge of this, and it's very important. I will say that technology is incredibly important, but we're utilizing technology with a purpose. At the end of the day, we want to make sure we're saving you time and saving you money. Obviously, those are the two commodities that we all have limitations of. So the best we can do to use technology to make us more efficient. Let's be honest, the accounting profession is super old school, right? I mean, we're still seeing a lot of people that will go from one office to another. They'll take a little thumb drive, sit in your office for a couple of hours, or I'll see you next week. It's very paper intensive. And so again, we want to use technology to make you more efficient and to make you more profitable at the end of the day. Finally, I think the biggest differentiation is we realize you guys are telling a story. You guys are on this journey, and you're really passionate about what you do, and we love that. We love seeing the creativity of business owners and what you're able to do. And to think that you might do this across the U.S., maybe even greater, maybe even the world. It's fun to think about that we have the potential to play a part of that story. And I can promise you that every person at Two Roads sees that this isn't just about them as individuals. This isn't just about a paycheck or just check clocking in, clocking out. We believe we have the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. And given that opportunity, I promise that we'll work really hard to do that for you guys as well. That's all I really have in terms of presentation, as it were. Ask Joe and Zach to join me as well and answer any questions that you guys have.
I guess the first question I have is, how do we handle the logistics of exchange of information? So we have a lot, we pay for beer as it comes in, for example.
Okay.
So how do we get the stubs to you and the invoices and all of those things from Chandler, Arizona back to Knoxville?
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So one, we would obviously collaborate on the front end to do that. We create systems across the board, and we would hope to, just like you're doing, to adopt those across each franchise entity. But it's really a digital process. So that, for example, Most people have scanners, most people have a phone. So if it's as simple as scanning, you just have a day, a week, whatever it is, you scan all that stuff, it gets uploaded into our system, and from there it's, a digital copy is just as good as a paper copy at that point.
Yeah.
And then it's out of your mind, you go back to doing what you do, and we've got all the information we need to process it.
Okay.
Just as an example, given a client you have now, what process do you use to identify as you refer to, the key indicators to
Yeah.
discuss with the clients, with your partners? What's your process now in identifying those?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, sometimes they come to us already knowing what they are, and other times we work together to figure things out. So over time, as we begin to do the books, we're going to see things that stand out. So it's not only just looking at the month itself, but it's looking back historically. Let's look at 3 months, and where do we see? Obviously, in your world, I gotta imagine your labor and your beer. I mean, there's not tremendous moving parts. So those things, what you really keep an eye on. I imagine that your general, administrative, those things are pretty standard, but those things are the things that are variable. So, John, I think it's a learned behavior, but some of it's just the history we have in doing other businesses much like yours, that we're able to discern that over time.
This is probably a
I'm
Go ahead, Beth.
also, this is Mikey from Go Burrito. I'm also curious, like, how much effort it is to enter systems. Like we get a stack of bills or receipts, let's say, and do we have to scan them in and email them to you, or is it just going on a website and typing in amounts like we would type into a spreadsheet, or can we type it in the spreadsheet and email it?
Yeah, Jed, you
How
want
do
to
we-
answer that?
Yeah. The goal of Two Roads has always been process driven. So we work with the franchisor or the franchisee to develop a standard operating procedure for like a nightly close, restaurants in particular. Having that closing manager take the paperwork for that day, and his only job is getting Two Roads that paperwork. He doesn't need to worry about sales tax or entering things correctly. That's really our job. His job is to sell product. Our job is to worry about the numbers. So we like daily or weekly, just kind of out of sight, out of mind, but as long as that manager can get us that data, we'll do all the data entry.
To give some scope to this, I have a burrito restaurant, and it's got a bar concept as well. In January of this year, I have 167 expense transactions between bank accounts, credit cards, payroll, things like that. And in 2015, I had 1,892 such transactions. And I have some process where I do a lot of stuff in Excel, and then after like whatever, it queues up there for a while, a few weeks, and then I go, I transfer stuff into QuickBooks, because it's just when I find errors and things like that, it's so much faster to work in Excel. And I'm just honestly not looking forward to going on a website and doing that many transactions. So it breaks down to about 40 per week. Do you see any, should I have any concerns? I mean, obviously, regardless of what bookkeeper I use, there's got to be some way to get all that information about all those transactions.
Yeah, Mikey, I'll answer that, and Joe, you can add to it. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is reduce the amount of time you spend in your bookkeeping period. So if we can help be the initial person that's doing the work and coming to you with the things that we're uncertain about, that eliminates a lot of that job typically, Mikey, because over time especially, we're going to learn what most of those transactions are. It's a learning process, but hopefully we've seen a lot of this stuff before, so we'll know exactly what things are. The things we're uncertain of, we'll say, hey, Mikey, we've got a couple of questions on these things specifically, but we're doing the bulk of that for you as opposed to you having to do the heavy lifting yourself. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I'm new to this. I'm the one guy on the phone call who's not currently using a bookkeeper. And, but I mean, I gotta admit, my life is, that aspect of my life is kind of hell. It's a lot of times. And I have hired an assistant to help me out with it. It's still, it overwhelms me sometimes. There's so much data, it blows my mind. But you're right, a lot of it is reoccurring. I would say a good half of our transactions are reoccurring. But I think because the nature of the bar, and we have things that they are reoccurring, but the amount changes all the time. We have a lot of paid outs. So every time we have a karaoke host, or we have a band, and then, they have bar tabs, and there's discounts and comps and things like that we track, and all that stuff just kind of, it adds up like crazy.
Yeah, you're right, Mikey. The first one's the toughest, but as we sit down and learn your business, when you have locations 2 and 3, we've already seen it, we've already documented it, and our team's pretty quick to pick that stuff up as well. But like you said, sometimes it's hard when you haven't had a bookkeeper before. You're trying to articulate something that's a little bit of an unknown. On the other side of it, when you have had one, you can see that your time is much more freed up to focus on money generating things, not things like bookkeeping.
Question for you on the POS integration. So
Yeah.
the integration between QuickBooks and the POS. How do you handle that? And I know it's probably case by case based on the POS system. But are you familiar with digital dining? In Mikey's case, we have future POS. How do you go about ensuring that integration? And if there is no API, how do you address that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing we do with all of our new business partners is we actually have a call with whatever POS they're using. A lot of business owners are using something like Square or Heartland. Actually, I think Heartland bought digital dining. We'd have a conversation and say, this is the information we need. What does the business owner need to do at the end of the night to get that data to match the activity that's going to hit that bank account? So we'll bring in the bank data and we reconcile it to digital dining. So pulling that sales report, pulling the sales tax report, kind of developing that monthly financial on the back end. I don't think they have a direct integration with QuickBooks, so we'll work with them to get that standard operating procedure for each business owner.
So that will be a nightly report coming out of the POS. That'll be transmitted to you all from
Yeah.
the store manager.
Yeah, and our goal always is for that manager, that business owner, to just focus on their duties. We prefer to try to get a login. So with Ken France down in Franklin, we actually log into his reports digitally or remotely and grab the reports we need, so that he doesn't have to think about which reports did you guys need again. We just go and get it ourselves.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
As you guys, obviously you've got several others you're talking to. What are you guys looking for in a relationship with somebody like us?
Very much collaborative. Because there's lots of things that come up that we're not sure about. We think we know the answer, but if we could pick up the phone and call, even though we have a local accountant here, it's a one person office. So so she's got a lot on her plate. Very difficult for her to manage everybody. So having some more infrastructure and being able to pick up the phone and call and get an answer of something simple and silly, probably to you, but it's giving me more gray hair, so that's a big part for us as well, being able to communicate. And then two, what you said earlier, educating our owners. And because you're exactly right, a lot of them are from the corporate world, that are looking to do something fun and interesting and build something of their own. And they've never had to do accounting. They've never had to prepare taxes, from a corporate standpoint. A lot of those things they don't know. And the terminology is very intimidating. So the education part is big as well for our franchise owners.
I think for me too, there's so much that goes into the restaurant side, as I'm sure Mikey knows. There's food that changes cost every time you come out, and you've got payroll, and then you've got certain things that switch, whether you switch a vendor or you bring somebody new in, and have the opportunity to just not worry about that and look at the end numbers and where we need to make changes and stuff. And for me, it's the worst part of my day is having to get on QuickBooks or get on the Aloha and run reports and try to match the two up. And just be able to integrate those two together and look at bottom numbers and say, okay, where can we make our changes? And because I don't have any franchises yet. So, I'm looking at if a franchise owner doesn't have to worry about that, and they can worry about, like you talked about, how do we bring more business in?
That's right.
And not worry about the book side of it.
Yeah.
I think what all these guys are gonna like to see, Nathan probably can attest to it the most now that he's got multiple franchises out there, is seeing the data on the stores consistently the same store to store to store.
That's right.
Instead of getting 15 different reports.
Yeah.
It allows them an opportunity to manage their system and know, hey, there's a problem in Omaha or there's a problem in Cincinnati just by seeing the reports on a weekly basis or daily basis.
Yeah, consistency is beautiful. Now, I was thinking too, you talk about collaboration. Think about when the franchisees begin to say, hey, my cost of goods is out of whack. One, they can collaborate between each other and say, hey, somebody's doing really good in that. They're looking off the same reports, right? They can begin to collaborate. It takes some of the onus, not always on you guys. They begin to collaborate together and develop these, relationships. But I also think, you have somebody say, hey, we're really doing well in this area. Hey, talk to this franchise such and such. I feel like, when I was a franchise, I was on an island. I had nobody to talk to. And so when you're able to have those relationships, yeah, it's important to have you guys, obviously, but I always found that was really helpful. Somebody with boots on the ground that I could also maybe just started a franchise, have those conversations is a gold mine.
And I think
Well, one of the things that I've run into over the past is, and this is a different path from what we're talking about, but one of the concerns that I have is the proper charges going in the proper line, charge of accounts. So when you set up charge of accounts, okay, and a franchisee sends in an invoice that says band, okay, is that going to go in marketing or advertising? It's a dirty example, but where's it going to go and how are you going to know to put it in the right line?
Right.
Whether it's merchandise or beer, you're going to know that stands out.
Right.
But those little integral differences, it's imperative from a business standpoint that our accounting department knows which line it goes in.
Yeah.
So how is that determined by your firm?
Hopefully it's determined by you guys
Okay.
in collaboration with us.
All
I mean,
right.
it'd be ideal if you're telling us this is exactly what it should look like.
Okay.
It's real easy at that point, right?
Okay.
I mean, you guys have dictated this is what it should look like. But we prefer that, frankly.
Yeah.
If all of them look the same, it's much, much easier than
Well,
trying to
that
guess.
brings me to my next question. Okay, you've got all these different store owners in the casual paint franchise. We'll talk specifically about
Yeah.
casual paint. The store owner in Fountain City may have a different opinion of what line this charge goes in
Yeah.
versus the store owner in Chandler, Arizona.
Right.
Now, you know which line it goes in.
Yeah.
Okay, so how is that going to be communicated to that franchise owner in Fountain City that it's the wrong line?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a delicate and gracious conversation.
Okay.
But we found also at the same time, while they may haggle over it, at the end of the day, they're not making
Still money coming out of pocket.
That's right. They're not making money thinking about those decisions. We have found, as long as we do our job and get it done, most oftentimes they usually don't care. As long as we're making sure that they have the information they need globally. You don't want to chase a couple dollars here and there, right?
Right.
You want to look globally. How am I doing on a whole? I want to look at percentages, not so much a dollar amount per se. Right? I want to keep up with, on exception as opposed to just looking at every line item. Most of the people you're probably going to have in the franchise system, they're probably not as familiar with that stuff anyway. And they're probably going to need some help in looking at those three key performance indicators they look at monthly on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
tell us how you're going to interface with the POS and handle the pulling out the royalty on a weekly basis for each store and then distributing it to where it goes.
Yeah.
Or if there's anything else that needs to pull out, like advertising or whatever, how do you guys structure that?
Now, I could be wrong. Again, we haven't had a conversation, so I'm talking on the fly here. But I think we've already done it with one casual pint Ken's casual client
Right.
in Franklin. I think
Yeah,
that
it's
might be
pretty-
the first digital one that you guys have had. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we've already done it, Roger. It's a matter of learning what it is, making sure it's set up. But how would you say it's been so far, the digital?
The digital dining program is great. We're still, learning more about it and things like that. But the way that you all come in and get the reports and things like that's helpful. And Josh has noticed it too on his end when he's going in and seeing all that. So that's
Right.
good. A few tweaks to the chart of accounts we're going to have to make as far as
Sure.
his is concerned. But overall, it's running smooth, and Ken has nothing but good things to say about you guys. So that's very helpful.
How are you paying the royalties? Are you doing it through an ACH transaction? Are you going through a clearinghouse? How are you doing it?
Yeah, I'll let you answer. That's what we did that with you guys, right?
ACH in it now,
Franklin.
yes.
And that is working well.
So far,
Good. And you tell how that works for me.
Yeah, so it's a completely digital system, ACH. So the franchisee will deliver a sales report along with the ACH. Franchisor doesn't really have to do anything to accept that money once it's set up. So money comes directly in their bank account with the report.
In terms of the franchisee books, when they're looking at it, are you doing it through an outside service? Or are you doing that as simply, a bill payment service?
Yeah, it's
And will they be able to see that payment on the register, or do they have to go to another entity to take a look at where that transaction is?
Yeah,
it's a
all of that-
software we use. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that data flows through the P&L and balance sheet.
Okay.
So they'll see the amount come through on their bank
Can they
account.
see it on the register?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know about you too. I remember when I was trying to do my own books way back in the day, and franchisors waiting on payments, but I hadn't reconciled my books yet. This helps eliminate that too when we're doing it digitally like that. It's a win-win, because at the end of the day, they want to pay it, right? Just getting to it. You don't have to mail a check, send a check. You start getting out of state, checks, it just takes a long time. So you found out the digital way to do it, it's very nice.
one, two, it doesn't look like there's another bill they're paying. I mean, they've got a stack of bills they're paying, and I hate for them to have to think they're paying us a bill, So if they don't see it, then that makes them feel better. I think it's more of a mental perception than anything else. But
And the weekly too helps cash
the
flow.
weekly
too.
helps a ton, yeah. Because I hate big monthly bills. Paying rent sucks.
Can I ask you a question? So, I have no franchisees yet, so I have no experience with this. My business is very healthy, and the thought of me being late on a bill, missing payroll, missing rent, missing a royalty payment, if I had such things, is it's hard for me to conceive because we're healthy, but I know a lot of places struggle. How often is it, and what do you do if you have a franchisee who's not managing their money well and they're about to miss rent or miss payroll or miss a royalty payment?
Is that a question for John or for Two Roads?
For Two Roads, is it something that comes up often? I mean, I gotta imagine it's kind of an ugly situation, but if somebody was owing a royalty payment and they were having trouble making it, because I don't know, maybe they took a bunch of money out of their account because they're just personally just taking more money out, not leaving enough in there. But I would almost rather go, hey, I need your business to survive. Pay your employees first. What kind of situations do we get in here?
Yeah, we don't
And
see
is
a
there
lot,
some
honestly, with
bookkeeper
franchise.
help on that? Like, can a bookkeeper, because you're monitoring your bank account, do you insure and send them red flags? Like, no, you can't. You got to leave this money in.
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, we don't see it a lot in franchises.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Pardon
yeah.
to interrupt. Do you send a notice to the franchisee or to your client, your partner, that says we're going to be taking out payroll, you have to have so much funds available in your account by this day? Do you send those kind of advance?
How does that work,
Yeah.
That's how what we experience. So Mikey,
Right.
our accountant will send us 5-6 days ahead of time. Hey, we're withdrawing from your account this payroll, and it's an automatic generated message probably
Right.
from their system. But you have to make sure that you have the funds this much funds available on this date.
Yeah, I'll tell you two areas where it's not even like a business owner's fault, but I was just talking to a merchant, a retailer yesterday, and she had some problem where her phone line was down, but she didn't know because how many people use their phone line these days, and her credit card transactions were getting batched. And for 4 days, she didn't have credit card payments batched. And I know for us, you're talking about if we didn't have credit card transactions for 4 days batched, we would probably bounce payroll. Like an accountant went to go take out $8,000 for payroll, you know, we need those credit card payments to come in. The other thing that we do that's a little tricky is that when my manager makes deposits, she deposits into my personal account, and then I go manually transfer into the business checking account. Because if I deposit directly in my business checking account, the bank charges me all kinds of stupid fees. And for some reason, they don't charge me in my personal account. And so, if for some reason I wasn't paying attention and let the business checking go low, so I don't know. You're saying that it doesn't happen in franchisees a lot because franchisees are generally a healthier business because they're starting from a more proven business model.
That's correct. Yeah, that's been our
I
experience.
just know,
And I'll just add one
is it
thing.
common though that every once in a while somebody
Mike-
misses
Mike,
a royalty payment?
Mikey, you're gonna have the occurrence where franchisees mismanage their money. It just happens, and it will happen. Having a bookkeeper that's working with them on a monthly basis, that becomes part of the heads up to you that, hey, something's wrong here.
That's right.
And both to the franchisee and to the franchisor. But you're gonna have
And
people
surely-
that mismanage money, and when that happens, you just wanna know early. You don't wanna know, after the quarter's passed and you get a quarterly P&L and you're going, wow, what happened?
I don't want to know before the landlord is
Shutting them down.
shutting them down, or the payroll taxes is padlocking the store.
Yeah.
Well, what type of
So
action
is that
do
something,
y'all take?
is that
in
something
order
that
to-
we as a franchisor ask
I think
the
that's what I'm trying to
bookkeeper to give us a periodic, maybe monthly or something, sort of like status on the health, the financial health of a franchisee to say, yes, like if they missed a rent payment or something like that, or bounced a check, that we get a heads up like, hey, location 5 is, just so you know, they have a tendency to bounce checks.
Yeah, that picture is going to be painted, Mikey, over time, and so we'll learn more as time goes on. I mean, obviously, early on, I mean, we're like quote unquote the new employee, so it's a learning process for us as well. But that's where you come into play and say, here are things that I think could happen, and it helps to make us aware of them. But again, that picture is painted again over time, and I think too it helps, Mikey, when you start to franchise, you're going to basically have that budget that should look fairly similar. I know there's some nuances depending on geography and whatnot, but when we're able to look at that versus actual versus budget, it really helps us determine whether you're on course or if you need to pivot. And so that will certainly help over time for sure.
Okay. I have a completely different question. Do we have we would want all the franchisees, I assume, to be on the same accounting package. Do we just assume that that's QuickBooks because it's just so readily available, or is there a different accounting software that you recommend?
Yeah, there's quite a few out there, Mikey. We decided to have one horse and run with one horse. One, we think it's the best horse. But two, rather than trying to know a bunch of different packages, we'd rather know one and know it better than anybody else. And we feel pretty confident that's the case. And until that changes, we're going to stick with QuickBooks Online. The other thing too is really important for us when it comes to service and relationships. When we have a need, QuickBooks or Intuit jumps. And for a big, multi-billion-dollar company, for us to have direct lines to people that matter within the company, that really matters because we know that it impacts our business and impacts our partners. And so, long answer to your short question, but they've been nothing but wonderful partners to work with, and we don't have.
So it's called OneForce?
Sorry. Intuit, it's QuickBooks Online. Intuit's the maker of QuickBooks Online, and that's the one I think
I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I said
you
one
something
horse.
Like one for, I thought.
Yeah,
So
one.
you're saying QuickBooks Online is what we recommend?
Yeah, we use one accounting package. That's QuickBooks Online. Sorry.
Any other questions? If not, we certainly want to thank you. Thank you very much
Thank you
for
guys. Appreciate
making a
it.
presentation, and we'll let you know if anybody wants to follow up with you.